Let's see where this day takes us. Studio STL.
Think you know your Black history? Celebrity historian Raffi Andonian is going to put your knowledge to the test. It's going to happen today at 9 and noon on Studio STL, presented by Michael's Flooring Outlet.
Finally, we got some Black History Month trivia for you guys with celebrity historian Raffi Andonian. It's time for Studio STL. Now get some!
Good morning, St. Louis. Like we just said, we got some Black History Month trivia for you. Here's your question of the day. Name this influential leader. Here's your clue. He helped desegregate St. Louis streetcars in the 1800s. Is it Frederick Douglass, Charlton Tandy, or James Milton Turner? Vote now. Scan the QR code or go to fox2now.com/Studio STL.
Studio STL.
We are taking another look at our question of the day. Name this influential leader. Here's your clue. He helped desegregate St. Louis streetcars in the 1800s. Is it Frederick Douglass, Charlton Tandy, or James Milton Turner? You see that red in the middle. It is Charlton Tandy. You got it right if you answered him. Guess what? We're about to learn all about Mr. Tandy with celebrity historian Raffi Andonian. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, and it's a perfect day to talk about him because today happens to be the 113th birthday of Rosa Parks, if she were alive.
What?
Yep. So to talk about the boycott.
Shout out to Rosa Parks.
Perfect timing.
Sure is. Okay, so what we know so far is he helped desegregate St. Louis streetcars in the 1800s. Take us back to that time. For a fellow like Mr. Tandy, what would everyday life look like for him in St. Louis?
Yeah, well, his background is initially in Lexington, Kentucky, and that's an important part of the story because he's born into a slave state in 1836, but his family was actually free. His parents had purchased their freedom, and they crossed into Ohio at some point. They were free in the slave state, but then also crossed to Ohio, help other escaped slaves go ahead and, try to get freedom in the Underground Railroad along the way. And that's an important part of the upbringing that Tandy had because he moves to St. Louis looking for greater opportunity. And when he moves here, he's going to get involved in a series of things. The Civil War breaks out. He's in his 20s. He joins, actually, a series of volunteer troops, black volunteer troops. And these volunteer troops would actually repel later on General Sterling Price, who was a former governor of Missouri, now fighting on the Confederate side. And he fought outside of St. Louis. And Tandy was a part of those forces. In the transition after the Civil War, he becomes the first black person employed at the courthouse in the Rotunda. He gets federal positions and federal appointment because of his service that he did in the Civil War. And in Reconstruction, he establishes a group known as the Missouri Equal Rights League, which is fighting for black civil rights. And even after Reconstruction, when the Reconstruction declined, he was still fighting for the Republican Party. Remember, at that time, the party of Lincoln that had emancipation and Reconstruction, to continue to care about black folks after Reconstruction had gone by because there was less alliance as Reconstruction passed. So he continued long after Reconstruction as well to, a long life that he lived to continue to advocate.
Wow, this is so much history that you are telling us, and you also
From right here in St. Louis.
I know, this is amazing.
Yeah.
What's in this book that you read?
So this is 3 volumes of a classic Bruce Catton series on the American Civil War, and that's an important part of this story, as you saw earlier. And let's bring it back to education. This is one of the things that Tandy cared about, as well as James Milton Turner that you had up on the screen as well. So let's kind of go to that part of the story right here in St. Louis. So what happens, of course, I mentioned Rosa Parks, right? But a century earlier, as you pointed out in the trivia question, there were boycotts taking place here on streetcars before there are buses. These are horse-drawn streetcars in public places. So while Reconstruction is advancing black rights, there is still discrimination in public spaces. There's one lady in 1867, for example, who's pregnant and has a child in her hand, tries to get a seat on one of these streetcars, gets thrown off. And incidents like this are what inspired someone like Tandy to go ahead and do the boycott that you described, as well as at one point Tandy goes on, grabs the reins of a horse and holds the horse until they would allow the black passengers on. These are the kinds of things that Tandy himself did. And then let's not forget, in that context, the exodusters. This is the exodus of black folks from Louisiana and Mississippi after Reconstruction collapses and they don't have the same protections. And so they come up the Mississippi River, end up in St. Louis. Many of them transition over to Kansas. Well, as a result of that influx bucks in 1879, what happens is the local aid societies mobilize. One of them was John Turner, which is James Milton Turner's father. He appoints a committee, and the president of the committee is our guy Tandy to coordinate aid, which is food, of course, shelter, clothing, even funding to continue Kansas if they wish to do so. And so as a result of that, Tandy and James Milton Turner team up and do a lot of stuff for education. Turner, for example, to give you an idea of his story, he was born enslaved in Kirkwood, and he learned, he got an education secretly because it was legal to learn to read and write, so he valued education as a result because he knew how hard it was to get it. And Tandy himself valued education as well, so they did a couple of things, one of which was promote and establish various roles that they played. Lincoln Institute, which is now Lincoln University, HBCU, of course, in Jefferson City. So for Tandy helped promote it. Turner helped get the funding for it. And then here locally in St. Louis, what they did was fight for Sumner High School to be moved. So for example, Sumner High School was the first black high school west of the Mississippi in 1875 during Reconstruction. But it wasn't in a great location. It was in a heavy industrial area, a lot of pollution, a lot of noise, not conducive to learning. And it was because of Tandy's efforts that they were able to move Sumner High School out of there so they could have a good learning environment. That's why I brought this today. If you're someone in Reconstruction, you may want to learn about the Civil War if you're in that period, because that's what helped lead to all the components that we're talking about.
This is amazing. Raffi Andonian, he is a celebrity historian. He knows everything. Make sure that you go to his website. He gives tours. Give him a like and follow on Facebook. He's on YouTube. And if you want to book a tour with him, head to his website today. He is awesome.
And you can visit Tandy's grave, by the way. Speaking of a tour, you can visit Tandy's grave in Greenwood Cemetery in St. Louis County if you want to go pay your respects, or Tandy Park in St. Louis City.
It's a great way to celebrate Black History Month as well. We're going to keep those questions of the day coming every day for you guys. Keep it here. We'll have more with Studio STL.